I love open world games. I just want to get that out of the way early because I'm going to kind of dump on them for a little while. There's no doubt in my mind that the games that I have the most playtime in are in fact open world games. The amount of hours I put into them is borderline insane, and the fact that these games are getting more and more padded as the years go on is starting to become a little too much for me. The best example I can give off the top of my head are the three most recent RPG Assassin's Creed games. Origins was absolutely phenomenal from start to finish, and Bayek being one of the best protagonists of the series. The game doing everything on the map of ancient Egypt 100%, plus both expansions on the hardest difficulty, was around 70 hours. Not too shabby. It was just like the perfect length. It was not too long, not too short.
That's what she said.
Then comes Odyssey, another really great game with one of my favorite settings in the series being ancient Greece. See, now doing everything in this game to 100% and all the expansions, my playtime was essentially doubled at around like 145 hours. I thought this was maybe a one-time thing because of all the open water and sailing you do in the game. I was in fact so very wrong. You see, the next game in the series, Valhalla, taking place during the height of the Viking, popularity, doing everything in this game 100% and all the monumental expansions on the hardest difficulty took me around 240 hours to complete. This is also getting the Platinum Trophy in all three. It's also a game I've struggled the hardest to get back into replaying, because 240 hours is not something to sneeze at with so many other games to play. I understand modern games are more expensive than ever now at its $70 price tag, and that's not including the DLCs or expansions or the obnoxiously annoying microtransactions. Players want to feel like the games they buy have value, and time spent playing these open world games can go a little too far. Look at, Ubisoft's map. I mean, look at this. Look at Unity's map. This is insanity. And my OCD pretty much compels me to collect all of this. Now, do I prefer a lengthier game compared to, short 6-hour ones? For sure. But there needs to be a balance. Take a game I actually really, really enjoyed back in, I think, 2015. The Order 1886. A game that to this day still holds up as one of the most graphically better games than some today. Now, was the game too cutscene heavy with not enough gameplay at around 5 to 6 hours of playtime? Yes, and I feel what killed it was probably its price tag. I think $40 instead of like $60 at the time, I feel the game would have performed much better with audiences. Take Hellblade 2 as another example. The game is pretty much worse than the first in every category, and is around 5 to 6 hours of mostly walking and trying to recreate the much better story and combat in the first game. It is of my opinion that the game probably barely sold as it was released day one on Game Pass. Now, why would anybody pay $70 for this kind of game, or $50 or whatever they're charging for it, instead of like $15? But Game Pass is a whole nother conversation for another day. But that's not to say longer runtimes are better on paper. As most open world games, the long runtime stems from unnecessary bloat, filler content, and padding that makes the experience worse. Extreme, controversial, and contrarian opinion coming.
I'm in danger!
I hate the two newest 3D Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Gasp! I never would have guessed.
I didn't enjoy doing the same shit over and over again in a game that, in my opinion, doesn't even look that good. You get all the cool tools in the first couple of hours, and then it grinds to a halt and throws map markers on you in a game praised for its exploration. And the actual exploration is like 20 different Korok puzzles repeated hundreds of times with the worst rewards imaginable. Identical looking shrines with puzzles that constantly repeat. Collectibles with a sufficient reward can be worth, players' time, but usually they tend to feel like busy work. Now, there are 1,000 Korok seeds in Tears of the Kingdom, and that is, no matter how you want to look at it, that's way too many. Unlocking inventory space is all well and good, but once those spaces are unlocked, looking around for Korok seeds should be over. I'm going on a tangent. I gotta move on. Now, an open world must be filled with some incentive to explore, whether that to be, landmarks or better dungeons, items, or characters. It's why The Witcher 3 still holds the crown for being the best open world game in my opinion, as it has the richest open world in terms of storytelling. Now, a lot of times the answer for exploration is collectibles. Ubisoft in particular has done this with every single one of their franchises. Hell, even BioWare leaned into this heavily with Dragon Age Inquisition, which felt like a glorified single-player MMO with as many pointless fetch quests and collectible quests you had to suffer through. Thankfully, the upcoming Dragon Age The Veilguard, horrible name by the way, just name it Veilguard, leaving the in the title just sounds weird. Anyways, Veilguard is ditching all of that and leaning into what made the Mass Effect side quests so special, a more linear experience with compelling characters and stories. Okay, coming off yet another tangent, what can be done to rectify such short runtimes of games with high price tags? Well, replayability is my top answer. See, even though I have never replayed Assassin's Creed Valhalla, just because it's so daunting to even consider, I have replayed much shorter games like Devil May Cry 5 or Hades, very short games on the surface, but heavily encourages and is designed around replayability. The industry needs to find a balance for this, or price certain games accordingly. This should also help offset the astronomically increased cost of some games today, where if they don't sell millions upon millions of copies, they're considered failures. Take Spider-Man 2. For an example. The game is still considered a success when Insomniac announced, the game's sales, but the game also had a budget north of like $350 million. A lot of that is marketing for sure, but that's insane to wrap your head around. Open world games are more prevalent than ever today. That can be seen as either a good thing or a bad thing depending on how the developer handles the open world. Hopefully, if more developers decide to adopt the open world formula, they sidestep a lot of the problems that many of these kinds of games seem to rely on. Endless map markers with nothing interesting about them. Anyways, what do you guys prefer? Open world or a more linear experience? Do you feel the length of a game should dictate its price? In a way, I kind of agree it should. Let me know in the comments down below. Talk to you next time.